here we are. So I'll tell the listener, look, I forgot the guidebook, right? So we're winging it, okay? I have visual prompts, but I, Mr. History, am here with my two today. Sadly, Mr. D, who is with us, he can't be here on the actual tour. He can't be here right now, so I'm with Mr. T over there and
SRW
on the right hand side of me, and we talk about the I can't even remember the name of this city. It was the city tour. I was surprised. I'll start by saying this right away before we go in deeper. I was surprised to find out that whole borough is in the Tower of Hamlets, which I've always thought of as like scumland, ghetto. There was nothing ghetto about this.
Well, no, because it's the Hamlets of the Tower, and it was all around the Tower, wasn't it?
Where does Tower of Hamlets spread to?
Diane Abbott's.
Hackney.
No, she's Tower Hamlets. She's Tower Hamlets. She's not Hackney, is she?
I thought she was Hackney.
I thought she was Tower Hamlets.
Tower Hamlets and Hackney, they kind of the borders is kind of around Hackney Wick.
They call it a rotten borough because it's one of these ones that no matter what you do, it will never not be Labour. It's all like anyway. So we were all supposed to meet at Queen's Square Park or something, on the right hand side of Tower Hill Tube as you exit. But there was a bloody suicide, wasn't there, on the tube, and so we all had to find our own way there from.
Yeah, well, I was coming from Bethnal Green, and I got on the tube at Stepney Green, and the thing came over the announcement on the tube saying that someone had jumped on the line.
We have 5 years left to die in.
So this guy took his life, and I was delayed.
So boys,
They
toys,
didn't tell us,
electric eyes and TV. My brain hurt like a warehouse, had no room to spare. Is there anything in there? And all the something smelly people.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rock and Roll Suicide by Bowie.
I don't know that one.
Well, you said a line that.
No, that's 5 years.
Oh, was that okay? Well, it's the same album. Yeah, and I had to get off at Aldgate East. They said there's been an incident at Blackfriars. Body on the track.
They didn't tell us that at Embankment. They just said Circle Line suspended and Northern Line suspended.
Is Blackfriars on the Northern Line?
No. There was, but Embankment was.
Oh, it's one of those situations where things are fluid and you don't get all the info. You know, it's the fog of war, as they say.
I had to get the bus, and I ended up I got off at Aldgate East, walked what I thought was towards Tower Hill, and got a bit lost, but eventually found myself in.
And then Daniel was the latest of all. At first it was me, I was there. Then it was Richard, then Simon, and Daniel was the last. Mr. D was the last because it's just a portly gent on a bicycle that didn't know where he was going. But let's move on from that. So the first thing we saw was the Roman wall, wasn't it? And that's this Roman wall that marks the demarcations of their Londinium. You know, so anything outside of that wall was not Londinium.
and it had been rebuilt, so you could see the original Roman tiles at the bottom.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. So then we're not actually looking at the original Roman wall, we're looking at a new...
Partly, the lower bits were.
It was built up by the Anglo-Saxons, I think, was they were trying to say. So then we saw that. That was a good start, you know, because other ones he starts off with a load of fucking logistics, kind of, yeah, some of them, anyway, this one popped right from the start. We had a suicide, then we had the Roman wall. Then we went back into the park where we met, and we went to the spot where I've got the photos here. Oh, how come that's there before? What? Oh, there. Oh well, I don't have the photos here, so we'll have to. Anyway, we went to the spot where, back in the day, because you've got the Tower of London over this, you know, Tower of London, and I was surprised that they keep the crown jewels in the same place where they keep all the thieves.
I don't think they keep the thieves there anymore.
Well, they did.
They did.
Yeah, but you know the crown jewels, when you go to see the crown jewels, they're not the real ones, they're replicas.
Where are the real ones then?
Probably in some like bunker underneath.
But actually, I don't think they kept thieves there. It's more like the Earl of Gloucestershire, which was out of favour with the Bishop of Coventry or something.
There was all sorts. There's two like sort of bastard children that were kept in that tower. Have you ever been there?
No, I haven't.
You should go there. It's good. They've also got King Henry VIII's armour, which is like really massive. It's like because he was so fat.
So that was over the, you know, over the road. That was over the road, and then so there was a memorial to the merchant navy sailors that had died in various wars, the First and Second World War,
With artwork by Eric Gill. Is
and
that
the
right?
Falklands War.
Well,
And
it
yes,
certainly looked like
Oh, you said
it
it
looked
looked
like that old pervert.
but we couldn't see a plaque which named it.
Well, they probably would chip it off when it's all come out about the fucking cunt. You know what I mean?
All the scandals.
Scandalous, dirty, you know, as you know, as Steve Jones said, "You dirty bugger, you dirty old man," didn't he? That's what Steve Jones said, didn't it?
You dirty old
All
bastard.
the dogs have got together like a Me Too, have they?
Eh?
All the dogs have got together like Me Too.
Yeah, they're barking mad about it. So then, within this, that was a nice. There was a good idea of yours, Rich, to actually, because I was sort of passing by it. Oh, just that, and then you said, oh, because there's that. You know, it's like this circular kind of. You know, you could have like a decent gang fight in there, couldn't you?
Yeah.
It's like a
War Memorial.
an auditorium, this circular thing, you know. And then, sorry.
Black. Is it metal with all the names of everyone that died on the ships?
It wasn't black, it was, I don't remember it being black, but yes, it had all the names. And then we went to the other spot, which is where I first noticed that Mr. D wasn't quite with us that day. He was distracted somewhat. Where they used to do the public executions. They would bring them out of the tower
Yeah.
to that very spot. And they were now, listen, look. I will flash up the names on the actual, if this one becomes the ultimate one, the recording, then I will flash up the names on the screen at this point.
Of the people who were beheaded there.
Of the people that were
Well,
beheaded there.
Thomas More was beheaded there.
Ah, no, it was the Duke of Monmouth. That's
Yeah.
the one, that's the big one. The Duke of Monmouth. He paid, now what was his name? Jack Ketch or something. who was apparently
The worst.
the worst
the worst
executioner in history. And the Duke of Monmouth said to him, "Look, here, I'll give you 6 gold pieces if you manage to do me in one fell swoop, unlike my uncle or something, or somebody else anyway, who had taken 4 swipes of the axe to get his head off."
But do you think he did that on purpose? He probably did that on purpose. Can you imagine if that's your job?
Well, it's not very professional.
No, but he probably imagine if it's your job, right? Your job is to cut someone's head off, and
See you later.
see you, and you probably think like everyone. It's like being a rock star. It must be like being a pop star.
He wanted more stage
Yeah,
time.
it's like I want this to go on for longer, and I also want this cunt to suffer more. So he probably just thought, yeah, I'll do it quickly for you. But so he just did a little.
But I read this though, that although people loved to go to see the executions, they hated the executioner. The executioner was a pariah, and that's why they wore the black. That's originally why they had
Well,
that
they had to
look
wear
of the black cowl,
Well, yeah, 'cause
so
they
that
weren't-
you didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
Because
Well, no,
they
but I think that was
were-
more for the person that was going to be executed rather than for the public.
No, for the executioner, because the executioners were hated. They were
No,
not.
but if
they
you're
were
going
a
to kill
pariah.
someone, like you probably like on both sides of the argument, like I don't think the person who's being killed wants to know who's killing them. Also, it's probably makes the person who's doing it feel a bit more. Probably can get on with doing it easier if there's no sort of recognition of who's doing this to you.
Well, maybe, but it's a fact that executioners were hated. They weren't liked. Although people
But
liked
everyone
the show.
went there to see the.
Yeah, no, they liked the show, but they hated the executioner.
Yeah, but it's probably like a pantomime, baddie. Like boo, boo.
Possibly. We could do a whole episode about public executions, because it is an interesting.
I wish they
So-
still did it. I do.
Really?
Wouldn't you be there? I'd be right at the front if they started doing it again. Wouldn't you?
I don't think so.
No.
He made me watch those beheading videos.
I watched someone put on a video of a politician, and they didn't tell us what was going to happen. An American politician giving a speech, and then at the end he gets out a gun and shoots
Oh yes,
himself.
I've seen that. Bud Dwyer. That's brilliant. I love that. And they passed him and they give him all those letters, and then he goes, "I just need to read this thing," and he reads out this statement, and then he pulls out this. It's like massive. This gun. It's got a huge, bit on the end. He sticks it in his mouth and blows his head off, and he just slumps down with blood pouring out.
Forever.
Yeah.
Blood.
Yeah.
It goes on for like another 10 minutes.
But then the thing about that is they showed that it went out. It was like live. They broadcast it live on the news.
I didn't like it. I wish I could unwatch it, really.
Well, it's the same with all those things. You kind
You
of
say that, but you're saying that you'd be right down
well,
the
no,
fucking
yeah, because
front.
that's the thing. Is you get sort of desensitized to it, and once the kind of initial kind of revulsion is passed, I can understand why people would like. It's probably the most exciting thing they've ever witnessed.
I don't know. You've seen one, you've seen them all, haven't you?
No, but to actually have it as a public, a display. If they said, oh yes, there's going to be a public execution right now, just around the corner, I don't know what I'd think.
I mean, if it's like a political figure, or in those days as well, a religious figure, because there was a lot of fighting between various versions of Christianity, etc. Then, if you don't go, you're sort of marking yourself. Oh, so why didn't you go to see?
Yeah, why didn't you want to see
Why
those?
weren't
Why
you-
didn't you want to see those entrails being pulled out?
Why
his
didn't you
belly?
want to? Let's just say Catholic, for instance. In this instance, why didn't you want to see those Catholics hung? And then you're sort of marking yourself.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there's certainly a lot of that sort of stuff going on.
But I can imagine, before the age of TV and radio and anything like that, it must have been the most exciting thing to see.
You had Shakespeare, you fucking cunt. You don't have to go and see somebody having their head hacked off.
I can imagine. It would be like going to the football or something like that, I think.
I hate football.
Well, I hate football also, but I can imagine it would have that similar kind of...
But football evolved from people having their head cut off and then people kicking their heads around. That's how football began.
Really?
That's true, yeah. Anyway, look, let's try and move on anyway, the Duke of Monmouth paid this guy to do him quicker. But as it turned out, it took this Jack Ketch, I'll say that for now, 6 strokes, and he even stopped to say, does anybody in the crowd want to have a go?
See, that's where I think he's taking the piss. Do you know what I mean? That's where he's taking the piss. That wouldn't happen, would it? Like, if you've been employed to cut someone's head off, and you've been doing it like...
It's very Jimmy Page, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that kind of flamboyant.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's kind of going like that. It's kind of like going, and holding your hand up like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And letting the silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else want to fucking go? Down, 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 or whatever.
That's too powerful.
Well, I don't know. You're lucky it wasn't fucking Fog on the Tyne or whatever. And then apparently there was at the very last execution they had there was a huge scaffolding build that had over 1,000 people on it, and it collapsed and killed 12 of the spectators. So there was that. Then we moved on to this church which is called, god damn it, what's it called? I can't remember, but it is the church from which Mr. Samuel Pepys, the great diarist,
Looked out
at
the Great Fire.
Of London in 1666.
It's amazing that you can still actually see that, the spot where he stood. It must...
I wonder if you can go up there, because this is one of the things where this is one of the good things about this talk, because there was a lot of times when we didn't have time, where we thought must come back and do that another day, because it talked about
there's loads of good stuff in there.
The things contained within this church. I can't remember a lot of it right now, but we were definitely saying, oh yeah, that could be a thing on its own, and that would be very good if you could actually go up and stand where Pepys himself stood.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can.
Have a good peep.
I mean, there was nobody peeping from up there while we were there. But
Take your feta cheese. Was it feta cheese?
Parmesan cheese.
We'll get to that.
Parmesan.
We'll get to that. So that was a spot that we certainly thought, we want to go back to that. Now here I have an old photo here of the old Mark Lane Tube Underground, which was...
the pub, which is now an all bar one.
Yes. And which inspired the question of... Because it was like in 18 something, this underground, which inspired the question from Mr. T. They had electric trains back then.
It must have been coal-powered back then. Coal-powered tubes.
But that would have been awful. It would have been full of fucking... would have been choking.
Or maybe they had horse and carriages taking the tube trains along.
And if we were any kind of podcasters, we would have done a slight bit of prep and actually found the answer to that question out. But insert here, I would have prepped that, found out, and I will now say...
You know how.
Do I know how?
Do you think you need to speak a little bit louder or go closer to the microphone when you speak?
I don't know.
I think you need to turn up its recording thing.
Can't you? Haven't you got a display there, like the levels?
Yeah, but to mask all the street chatter.
Oh, I think if I mean, our voices are cutting through anyway. I mean, I can't. It's
Just
not it's not that loud. It's not like they're having a party down there.
Speak?
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, it's getting volume.
It's all right, is it?
Yeah.
So that was the Mark Lane tube. Then we were asked to turn up, I think, Seething Lane.
That's right.
Seething Lane,
Yeah, where we all seethed about something there.
We had to walk in a seething manner.
We had to walk seething, bent double, moaning, seething about something, you know. But that's for ourselves, each individual, you know.
I wonder how it got its name, Seething Lane. Maybe we should also
It's
look
called.
that
No,
up.
it's actually called See Thing Lane because you see things. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And then we were asked to look at Muscovy Street, and I know why. I can remember why. Because some company that used to be situated down Muscovy Street was the first company in the world, which I found a bit. Huh?
Muscovats.
Is it? I can't remember now.
The first company in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they say.
which I found very odd.
What year was that?
Well,
Way back.
16,
Way back.
73.
right now I'll be flashing a number up on the screen. Seething Lane, and then now, damn it. Then we passed the spot that used to be something to do with the naval something or other, that was also where Pepys lived. So we saw this statue of the Pepys
Yeah.
himself, and wherein I got to read out this quote about how he had a lot of his, when the fire was on, he managed to get a lot of his stuff on a little trolley or whatever, a horse and cart, and taken away. But for his most precious things, he dug a hole and buried them in it. And what were they?
Cheese imported from Italy.
Parmesan cheese and a bottle of port.
My Parmesan cheese and my wine.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was wine. It wasn't port.
Parmesan cheese.
Wasn't that Four Seasons house? And I made the joke that was Frankie Valli's house.
It's a nice little statuette, you know. Then,
Also, we had, when you were doing that,
oh yes, we
a
were
bunch of
oiks.
rough kids, 14-year-olds, gathered round. in
Richard, they
intense
weren't
interest.
14. They were about 10.
10. Okay.
There was a lot of them, and you said, I noticed them, and I turned back and I said hello, and afterwards, because you said, oh, they were fascinated, and I was thinking to myself, Richard is the most naive person I've ever met, because they weren't fascinated, they couldn't understand a word that we were fucking saying, they just didn't like us being in their location. They were lined up like a gang of toughs.
Well, I don't.
They were fascinated by what you were saying about the history
They
of their
didn't. They couldn't
location.
understand a word of it.
I didn't know. Yeah, I did.
Because when I said hello, you didn't get a hello back.
I thought they were like. I thought they were like on holiday. They were like foreigners on holiday.
No, I think they were like Afghanis just been moved in.
God knows. I didn't feel threatened by them anyway.
Well, you're the kind of guy, Rich. Back in Oliver, you would have gone, "Oh, you little tyke." Well, he's like, you know, to Artful Dodger, and
They
you
were
get
just tiny little kids.
yeah, and that's what Fagin sent out. That's what Fagin sent out to do his dirty work for him.
Steal the kerchiefs.
You've got to pick
Steal
a
the-
pocket
you gotta
or
steal
two.
the cheese.
You got to pick a pocket
gotta pick
or
a pocket of
two.
Parmesan.
You got to pick a pocket or
You've got to pick
two.
your parmesan out of the ground.
In this life, one thing counts.
Parmesan cheese
The
and a
back
bottle
large.
of
In
wine.
larger amounts.
Oh, Parmesan cheese?
You gotta pick a pocket or two.
Not the bar.
Well, we could tell some stories about her, couldn't we? But let's move on, because we left there, and on the left-hand side was St. Olive Heart Church.
Famous church frequented by
Well,
Dickens.
was
it Dickens?
Oh, he's everywhere in this story. Everywhere we go, fucking
Peeps.
Dickens.
And Mother Goose is buried there. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, that's a mystery. Who is this Mother Goose?
Yeah, who is Mother Goose?
Nobody knows.
But apparently she's buried in this church.
Another panto.
Well, she is a panto staple, Mother Goose. I don't know what from, but
But how could she be buried there?
I want to talk about the macabre skulls that were on the gate. And you know what? This skull motif turns up at least twice more
Yeah.
in this tour. This macabre skull.
Well, I think there's a lot of dead bodies around there.
Is this makes you now? If I had the book, we could work this out. Is this near to after the
pump.
1666? Because then
Corpse
you might
orgy.
then you might understand why the like churches don't usually have skulls on them.
No.
They might have they will have gargoyles and angels, but not. Well, as far as I know, anyway. I mean, look, I don't go to many churches, but skulls, quite good. So that was another thing where the gate was locked, but we would like to go back to have a little nose around in there. Then
we went round the corner. And
up
there
the
was that
road
weird
and round the corner, and then we
tunnel.
we took our own diversion up this tunnel. Which Richard got a couple of nice photos up there, and we could have gone further along up there, but we had to stick to the book. But it didn't end, did it? There was look, you can go up there somewhere. But
The volume's trailing off a bit.
Then you found the monks. Was that the next thing, the monks?
then, yes, we followed it round the road. I will flash up the road name here. And
You flashed up the road?
yes, I will flash up the road name here. The Crutched Friars. So named because of these certain friars from foreign lands. They carried these sticks where the cross was just a line on the top. It didn't have like a T. It didn't have the long thing on the top. By the way, this could many times we might be making mistakes here, and if we are, then I'll flash up that on the. I'll keep flashing
Appendix.
on the addendums, on the screen. So anyway, we eventually found them, and then we had to go up Jewry Street, or Jewry Lane, or Jewry Road, Jewry, so named because it used to be a Jewish ghetto. And then at the end of that, we came across St. Botolph without Aldgate, which is a church where all the prozzies used to hang around
Selling their wares.
And I don't know the dates, so now this is terrible, isn't it? We can't continue like this.
Well, you can flash them up. It's going to be in the edits. This is the edit. It's going to be a heavy edit, this one.
It's so much hard work. All these prostitutes used to hang around there, didn't they? And you could really see it in your mind's eye.
Church of Prostitutes.
The Church of Prozzies showing a bit of dirty bit of ankle.
Say it close to the mic.
Hey?
Say it close to the mic.
Dirty bit of ankle.
It's not like It's not like that.
Say it like that. Dirty bit of ankle.
Oh, I have to be above. I have to be above these things. A dirty bit of ankle. They used to hang around there, and then we had to take a right up the road to the Hoop and Grapes, which is apparently the oldest working public house in London.
Which had a secret tunnel.
well, the myth, the rumour is that it had a secret tunnel coming from the Tower of London into the basement of the Hoop and Grapes.
What was that for? So
Well,
get beer back and forth to the prisoners.
That and for escapes. Because, you know, look, nobody got paid very much back then, and if you could, they obviously the you know, the keepers, the prison guards in the Tower of London, they'd have a couple of scams.
Beefy.
They'd have a couple of scams. Come on, we got one night down the pub before I get my head cut off. You know, this kind of business.
Yeah, no, that's what I think. Yeah, it's for booze, not for.
Come on, I want to get my end away with a bit of ankle.
Yeah.
And I want to have a
It's
couple.
my last chance. Come on, I'll get my head
Oh.
chopped off tomorrow.
I want a couple of beers and a bit of ankle. A bit of dirty, little cheeky bit of ankle. That's going to be my new name for like.
Look at the ankles on that.
That's a bit of ankle,
Fucking
that
hell,
is.
mate.
That's a nice bit of ankle over there. So, because I was wondering as we took that long stroll up to the Hoop and Grapes, I was like, is this going to be worth it? But it was nice to know that little bit of tunnel lore. The tunnels of London. You could, you know, I know you're not into that kind of thing, but you could do like a role, you know, one of these old role-playing games about these old tunnels of London. You know, real, and you could make a few up and stuff like that. You know, Soho Square and all the rest of it. And
Wimbledon Common, the Wombles of Wimbledon Common.
but those ones that you sent me that video of and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Then back we went the way we came, past the bottles again, to now I know the name of it because I wrote it on the pump of the Aldgate pump,
Yes, corpse water.
which is where they went back in the day before people had water pumped into their houses. They had to get it from some communal space, and in this space, Aldgate, they got it from this pump. And here I have these nice old photos of it. You probably can't see Richie there. But, can you see it all?
Yeah.
That one. Well, there it was the news behind them. I don't know what's one. There it's a bank behind them. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And there's an urchin sitting on the thing there. And then, now it's a co-op. See, look.
Coop.
Can you see? Look, there's an
Yes.
urchin.
Yeah.
There's a gent. And that's even older. That's even older because you've got a whole basin around it there. And there's that, you know, you can see the thing that you've mentioned, the handle. And the water comes out of a wolf's head.
Yeah.
But the trouble was that the water came from an old well, which is what they had before this. This was built in the 18th century, I think. Before that, or maybe in the 13th, I'm not sure. Can't remember dates on the fucking screen. Pardon me. Or inserted, if it's going to go on the pod. From a well. Now that well was then made to go into this pump. But the water that went into that well had to come
It's
straight
filtered through the bodies of
through
the
the bodies
graveyard.
in the fucking graveyard. So we called it corpse water. And I was saying,
And they also imported chamomile tea and had a chamomile tea house there.
Yes, that's
so
right.
it'd be chamomile corpse tea.
Yeah. Yeah, you missed out the chamomile.
I didn't remember that at all. Didn't remember that at all. Although, and I did say to Simon the other day, I think you could actually flog corpse water.
They'll probably find that it's beneficial somehow.
Oh, well, I didn't mean it as actual corpse water. I mean as a brand name. You could
Oh,
come up with
right.
some
No, but you know,
cocktail drink kind
No,
of
but
thing
you
and
know
call it
that-
corpse water.
you know, in India.
And then I also thought of this. Let me get this one into you. Grave juice. Grape juice. Grave juice.
Yeah.
No, but you know.
Flog it to goths.
No, but you know, in India, where they have the Ganges, they burn like corpses in the Ganges because it's considered so holy. It's supposed to be like the most like disease-ridden water that you could possibly ever go in.
No, and they do it upstream as well. So people are washing their clothes in that.
Yeah.
It's getting all the corpse stuff coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
And there's sharks in the Ganges as well. Sharks. Because you've got two kinds of sharks. You've got freshwater saltwater sharks. Although the bull shark can go up both, and that's where Jaws comes from. Well, anyway. Well, not. There's a couple of things that Jaws comes from. Anyway, so that was very interesting, and we touched the wolf's head to get the wolf's power, didn't we? Mitra Square. Mitre Square. I have an old photo of it here, which is it's a kind of a horse and cart. I'm looking at the horse. It's very dark.
This is the Jack the Ripper place.
This is where Jack the Ripper killed one of his victims immediately after killing another one. He had the bloodlust was on. You done one, I got to do another.
Yeah, and this is.
Got to have another beer of
I was
ankle.
wondering about whether Jack the Ripper actually had sex with his victims, or he would just slash them up.
Well, they didn't have proper forensics back then.
You know Ted Bundy.
I'm aware of it.
He never had sex with his victims. He just enjoyed killing them.
But he might have jerked off over them.
Or maybe later.
But they didn't have proper forensics back then, so they couldn't necessarily find semen stains or whatever, or residue of semen. So,
yeah, no, but I just, it makes me...
I've never really looked into Jack the Ripper, to be honest. It's never really
but I
grabbed my
think
imagination.
that whole, serial killer thing, I think it's more to do with, bloodlust and the joy of killing than sexual frustration.
I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I think they all are different, aren't they?
Probably, yeah, of course, obviously, yeah.
Or though they all keep trophies of some kind, and then they say so and so was killing for company, don't they? That Nielsen.
Yeah.
And so even then, keeping a trophy, even if it's just a little bone or the head in the in the fucking freezer, that's a form of company, isn't it? The trophy is a form of company.
Yeah, Dharma was the same. So, he just wanted someone to be with him all the time.
Was he another one of the gay ones? Is he that?
Yeah, he's the American one. Yeah.
Is he the gay one?
Yeah.
Blonde, good-looking.
Yes.
I hate that cunt. I don't like these people. I don't like serial killers. I don't like them.
I don't like them. I just find them fascinating.
I don't find them fascinating either. I just want to stamp them under my heel like a worm. As Heathcliff says in Wuthering Heights, I have no pity. When I hear the worm cry, I just want to dig my heel down harder. I would never have read that book if it hadn't for H.P. Lovecraft saying it's a masterpiece of gloom and weirdness, and it is actually.
Which book is that?
Wuthering Heights.
Oh, I've never read it.
It's actually decently worth. It is gloom and weirdness, and so. But Heathcliff is a fantastic sadist, and that line has always stuck with me. I have no pity. When I hear the worm moan, I just want to dig my heel down harder. I love that line so much.
Yeah, that's quite psychopathic.
Then we had this synagogue thing, didn't we? We went up another street. I can't remember what, Bevis Mark Synagogue, which we couldn't get to because of works. And we had to peer through some kind of hole, didn't we? So.
But there was that man.
What man?
The man that lets go up the.
That was someone else.
That's later on.
Oh, that's later on. Sorry.
Yeah, you're talking about the troll.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry.
That's much later on. We couldn't get to the Bevis Mark Synagogue. Oh god! Now I've only got 10% battery left on this. So there's not much to say about the Bevis Mark Synagogue.
The oldest synagogue.
Is it? Was it? Probably. Maybe. Yeah. And then up to the Bishop's Mitre that's marked Bishopsgate up on the wall.
Oh yes. The crown.
I can't remember too much about that.
That's the mark. That's the kind of gateway, isn't it?
To Bishopsgate.
Yeah.
Then we had the Church of St. Botolph without Bishopsgate. This was another church.
Yeah, there's a lot of churches on this walk.
There was a lot of churches. We had to go. This was a really great bit that was very much like time travelling. this is why the book would be useful, because I could dip into the book, because we had to go up this strange lane, but it had the sort of Georgian or Edwardian, it had the ironwork coming over the lane with the lamp in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was very much in that moment I was instantly time traveled, transported, and you thought, God, this would be nice at night with them lit up and on mushrooms. You'd really get it. You'd really have
Was
transported
that
time
near
travel.
the original site of Bedlam?
Yes, exactly, where we had the first of our confusing moments, because it was like, where?
Yeah.
His
yeah.
directions were
Yeah.
really confusing.
Oh, we just write that in the book. Oh, this is near Bedlam, but then don't mention any more about it.
The original site, because it moved twice, didn't it?
It did move twice, yes. And if you get the chance, dear listener, do look up Val Lewton's film called Bedlam, which stars Boris Karloff. It's a very good film. Val Lewton invented film noir. But that's another story. Val Lewton could have his own episode on it. I suddenly want to talk about Val Lewton, but we should move on. But that lane was a wonderful little lane.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yep. And it's right
Maybe
next.
suddenly I was back there. I was like buying a roasted conker from a. It was Christmas. I was buying a roasted conker from a
Dickens.
from a vendor.
It's only about 5 minutes up the road from Liverpool Street.
This would be a good winter warmer of a walk.
Yeah.
Cutting out a lot of the fucking churches, to be
Yeah.
honest. You know, there was a lot of churches. We might have to, because I've only got 10% left, we might have to split it off and do the rest of it in a bit or another day, because I've only got 10% left on the battery. So I was very, because the trouble with with the Bedlam thing was, he says a lot about it, and yet you've got no idea where you're supposed to be looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, what?
Annoying.
That was a very annoying and discombobulating moment. I did get some nice couple of, there's a nice picture of the original Bedlam. So that was what it would have looked like in the day.
Wow. Well, you couldn't miss that, could you?
You couldn't have missed that. Yeah, but this is what it looked like inside. And he had in the book he had a good quote from Shakespeare, because it was going in Shakespeare's time, about people sticking nails in their skin. It was pretty strong stuff.
But that's another thing, like the executions. It was common for the public to go and visit asylums and just like have a good old look at them nutters.
Now there I would go.
Yes.
Because you like that TV programme.
Bottom. No, but bottom, they're not mental in the sense of they're dangerous.
No.
You wouldn't put the bottom people into Bedlam, I don't think.
Have you seen that documentary?
In the day you would.
Back in the day.
Have you
Back
seen?
in the day.
Have you seen that documentary called The Wet House?
No.
You know they have these wet houses for like street drinkers.
Well, I worked at one.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just, someone's just went in there and just filmed the street drinkers like in their wet house, where you can you're allowed. You can have as many beers as you like. You just sit in there and just drink.
Yeah, no, I worked at one. I mean, I was doing some computer work for somebody, and then one of them came in and he was talking to me, and like he got some strange disease that when he'd been some kind of like stud, this disease had wasted him away, which had led him to getting hardcore into heroin. Anyway, so he was like in a bad way. Anyway, he was leaning over talking to me, and then something fell out of his, because it was like in a kind of don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. But anyway, this great big packet of grass fell out of his pocket, and I was like, I goes, oh, you've dropped something. And he looked down and he was like, don't tell, please don't tell. And I was like, I'm not going to tell, but I can't pick it up for you. You've got to pick it up yourself, It's all on camera. They're all filmed all the time. But, So anyway, you met some funny characters in there. One of them was totally mentally deficient. He told me this very scary story about like when he was a kid, or a teenager, gone burgling with his mate, and they'd burgled a few places, and then they did this other burgling. And then the mate that he was with, who was kind of obviously the brains, he goes, "Come with me," and they sneaked all the way up the stairs, opened the bedroom door. The couple were it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. The couple were laying, snoring in their bed, and this mate leant over and put his kiss on the woman's cheek or lips or face. But anyway, and I was like, what the fuck? It was so vivid the way he described it to me. It was like, whoa, that's insane, He goes, I never went burgling with him again after that. It's too much for me.
That's pretty good.
That's filmic.
It takes a lot of guts, I think, to do that.
Mr. SDR, you're exposing yourself as a bit of a fucking weirdo.
No, but can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine...
Your favourite form of entertainment would be public executions, and you admire a guy that sneaks up into their bedroom and places a little dainty
No, I'm just saying,
kiss on them.
there's a lot of balls to do that.
Or insania.
Yeah.
I mean, next thing you're going to say, right, it takes a lot of balls to stand down an alley, grab a bird and throw it. Takes a lot of balls. You've got to say it takes a lot of balls.
No, I'm just saying, in the mind of a cat burglar.
I wouldn't say they were cat burglars. This guy, the one who was telling it to me, was he could not be a cat burglar. No way. Then we got to this guy, the writer's favourite word, dismal. We got to All Hallows on the Wall Church.
The most dismal
The
church
most
you
dismal
could imagine.
dismal church in London. But you know what? He was right. It was very gothic horror, wasn't it? And there was another bit of the London Wall there. Wasn't there, if you remember? There's another bit of the London Wall. But at that top bit, there, yeah. See, it looks there. It looked grim. It needed a wash, didn't it?
Well, it was right next to a motorway, so it was all blackened by exhaust fumes.
It's like they want it to be, because you could imagine a wailing ghost of a strangled woman up there, strangled by one of your mates. So you think it takes a bit of balls, strangle a bird up the church tower. No, you've got to respect it. It takes some fucking balls.
It does.
So that, in this instance, he was right with his dismal. And then we didn't notice it, but there was on that thing, there was another skull.
Oh,
We
wow.
didn't see it, but there was another skull on that.
Skulls are everywhere.
On this tour, at least. Throgmorton Avenue, Draper's Hall. Ring any bells? The picture's quite banal. An old one. Doesn't ring any.
Oh, I think that's when. Is that where we met that guy and you let us go up there?
Is that the troll?
Yeah, I think so.
Where we had to divert because it was doing a film down there.
Yeah, I think so. That was the next stop.
Well, I know that as about number 30 on the map, and I don't know that we're at number 30. Oh dear. Well, I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll cut this. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. No, because I've got. No, that's not that spot. I don't know. I've got nothing. I can't remember anything about that.
I'm pretty certain after we walked past that blackened church, the next stop was the guy there, the troll.
I don't know. I can't say anything right now about that. Then there's a Dutch church. We went to a Dutch church, which is still only used by the Dutch. I didn't know there was a big Dutch.
They have their own religion.
No, it's a Christianity, but it's still only used by the Dutch.
They like to stay within their own.
I didn't realise there was that. A kind of little enclave of Dutch.
There's enclaves of all nationalities in London.
Yeah, I know it was a. I don't know. We'll have to move on over that bit. It's not very. No, Adams Court. Adams Court. Does that ring any? This is where. Sorry, I remember. I think this was the bit where. I feel like we're going to have to stop around here and
Let's move on to the next.
there was this midway point, and I know that this must be the midway point where I was talking about. There was this church, and they said there was this maypole that was taller than the actual tower.
Oh, right.
And it had been the scene of not race riots, but riots against immigrants, and it got quite bloodthirsty in that. And there was this. I really had to work hard with you guys because it felt like it was one of those moments where
our footsies were wearing out.
And your minds were overwhelmed with information and stuff like that, and I really had to dig deep to pull you guys on, because it was this, let's just go and sit in a pub and gossip. Like, come on, man. So anyway, I liked that about the big tall maypole, because that was pagan, and maybe they weren't whirling around the maypole, and that whirled them into a kind of madness that turned into a violent rage against the immigrants. Which immigrants, I can't quite remember, but you had there's always been immigrant issues in England.
The Muscovites from the first British company.
It was called St Andrew's Undershaft. Oh no, that's the next thing. Yeah, that was that was Andrew's Undershaft. Now that was interesting. It had a lot to do with nuns and stuff. And that was all very. Trying to read the map and that, it was getting all of very. That was the thing about this walk. It was very twisty turny, wasn't it? Like up here, around there. The book and all of these bits seem to be right down the centre of the book as well. So it was like, what? It's very difficult. Undershaft had a lot to do with nuns. That's worth an insert another day when I've got the book on me. So we'll move on and do an insert there. Then there was the Lloyd's building, if you remember that great big towering.
Yes,
That strange sci-fi building. I don't know that there's too much to say about it apart from it's impressively ugly.
Is that
Looks like
Richard
an engine.
Rogers?
Looks like an engine.
By whom?
Is that Richard Rogers?
I think so.
Did he do the Pompidou Centre?
It's very similar to the Pompidou, but this one's all like kind of brushed steel.
India House? Any bells?
Don't remember that.
The East India Company. Well, I remember that, something about that, but there you go, it's died. And on that, we'll have to cut here, and we will reconvene for part 2 and some inserts at another day.
But I remember after that, the next bit was the lanes, the little pokey lanes.
Pokey lanes.
Yeah.
They were excellent.
Cobbles.
Yeah.
You walk.
You could they are definitely real worth revisiting for filming of some kind.
And they had that coffee shop, wasn't it? It was like one of the first
coffee shops.
Yeah,
Jamaica.
It was like
Now it's the Jamaica wine shop, but it
Yeah.
was the Jamaica coffee shop.
Yeah, and it was like
Started by an immigrant from.
yeah, because coffee shops became like
Algeria.
a bit like today actually, where coffee.
You love the fucking immigrants, don't you?
No, but a bit like today, where all the coffee seems to be like trendy. Coffee houses was the new thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like it's the same as acids, the coffee back then was 3 times as strong as the coffee you get today.
Well, it probably was actually.
But then that made me think about
The toilets.
The toilets, because they didn't have proper toilets back then. So what did they? Because when you have a decent coffee, you got to do this shit, haven't you? Where were they doing that?
In a bucket and threw out the window.
Yeah. That's what they used to do.
They say that, but I can't believe they were that.
No, because I heard.
Dickens walking down the street and suddenly a bucket of turd lands on his head.
Well, yeah,
I
no.
can't believe it.
Apparently, that was a common thing.
No.
What do you mean, no?
That's what I mean. No.
What do you think they did with it then? Put it in
They
a little box?
Certainly not chuck it out a window so it can land on Charles Dickens'
No, I've
head.
heard.
So Charles
It was
Dickens.
way before Dickens, wasn't it?
Even Shakespeare, you can't like block.
No, there was shit everywhere.
Shakespeare turns up
No,
to
but
work with a fucking great turd on
No,
his
but
head.
you know, before cars, everything was there was horse shit everywhere. It was
That's
just like-
horseshit. It's not the same as a bucket of turds
No, but
it's coming out the top floor window.
No, but you know what they used to have? They used to have that thing. It was called a nosegay. It was just like a thing that you used to hold to your
I
face.
will give you that the place stank,
Yeah, everywhere stank.
but
So-
I don't
so
believe
I-
that people were just leaning out of the second story window and chucking out a bucket of
Well,
turd.
why not? Because there's nowhere else for it to go. There was no plumbing.
They would have found a way, not
But
just
if there's already
chucking
loads
it
of
out
horse
on a
shit in the
fucking-
street, you wouldn't care if there's like a bit of human shit in there as well.
There's a difference between human shit and horse shit. Horse shit has an almost
Made of
invigorating
straw.
stench to it. Yeah, whereas human
I know,
shit
but
is
I'm just
revolting.
saying the whole place stank to high heaven. I don't think anyone really cared.
Well, if they didn't care, they wouldn't have had nosegays, would they?
Well, no, that was just a thing to help you through the stench.
I thought you said nobody cared.
Yeah, it was like
Well,
a little box, and
No,
it had
why
like
don't
a,
you say nobody cared? Next minute you say they fucking...
no, they cared enough to want to avoid the smell, but they, you know, it's like there was no that you couldn't police it. It was like
They had crap collectors.
yeah, that was true. They had people that swept up all the crap.
No, they grab... Can I grab your buckets, madam? Hey, how many buckets today? Oh, 3 buckets. Oh, madam.
Oh, you missed the urine collectors as well. For the tanners.
Yes.
I don't know that was in the book. I think
It wasn't.
somebody
Yeah,
else
no,
added
I
that.
said that. I said it's about
They used
having.
it to make leather.
Yeah, no, what they used, this is the origin of the term you haven't got a pot to piss in, because the very poor used to collect their urine and take it to the leather the people who-
Tanners.
the tanners. You see, and the part of the curing process was to dip the leather in urine to soften it up for, to start working with the leather. And so the very poor people used to do that. And if you were really, really poor, you didn't even have a pot to piss in. So that's the.
Couldn't even sell your piss.
Yeah, you couldn't even sell your own piss.
No, but you just have to run to the tanners when you need a piss and say, oh, I've got a pint
You got
for
a
you
pot?
now.
You got a pot?
I've got a pint for you. I've got a pint for you.
But yeah, that's that.
Okay, stop there.
We are being joined this time by Mr. F. Our secret friend, Mr. F, is here. And he is going to class up the joint with his posh, with his posh voice. Now, this is an old drawing, Daniel, of East India House.
The whole of the portico bit entrance has gone.
Maybe you're right. Let me go to the book. East India House once stood at the junction of these two streets and served as the headquarters of the East India Company. The company was founded under a royal charter by Elizabeth I in 1600, and by the early 19th century controlled much of India, Burma, Singapore, and Hong Kong. together comprising around a fifth of the world. Together, what it says, together comprising around a fifth of the world's population. What I think it means is those territories, India, Burma, Singapore, and Hong Kong, all together comprise a fifth of the world's population, or it did back then. The company played an important part in the foundation of the British colonies of Hong Kong and Singapore, and was also responsible for the importation of opium into China, a trade that caused terrible drug problems among the Chinese population. Well, I always thought that they gave it to us, the opium problem. I thought it came from them.
No.
Well, expand, Simon.
Well, yeah, I think the British were responsible for the movement of it, but I think they also, because they encouraged the production of it as well, I think.
Where were we getting it from? Afghanistan?
I'm really not sure, but yeah, I've heard that before, that the British were responsible for the opium problems in China.
Yeah, that's what it says here. The company also paved the way for the British Empire in India, but its preeminence swiftly declined after the Indian Mutiny of 1857, and its London headquarters were demolished 4 years later, with Lloyd's taking over the site. So that might explain something about what you're saying there, Daniel. This picture.
It looked similar, but it's just minus the portico. So I don't know whether the building was flattened and rebuilt, or whether it's just been altered over time, or possibly damaged during either the First or particularly the Second World War.
By 1874, the East India Company's role and territories had been formally taken over by the British Crown, thus ending what was arguably the most influential commercial enterprise in world history. But I was wondering, but Heart of Darkness, that's set in Africa, isn't it? Have you read it?
No.
I've never read it, but I've seen Apocalypse Now.
Well, that's based on it.
Yeah.
But I thought that in Heart of Darkness that he goes up river to he's working for the East India Company. I thought that he's doing that in that book. But
yeah, I don't know, probably. I'm not sure.
I could very, very quickly look it up. Should I do that?
Well, no, East India Dock Road is just down the road from me. It's a Poplar.
And so so you've got some water near you?
Huh?
You have some water near you?
Well, no, you know, East India Dock Road is in Poplar.
Right.
So I guess it's kind of, it must have been in that area.
In Heart of Darkness, he's working for a Belgian trading company, so it can't be... No,
but I think the docks, like all the docks in the East End, you know, they were probably, you know, related to that company.
Yeah, sure.
Simon, do you live in Poplar?
Not anymore, but I used to.
Okay. My ancestors come from there, and they're connected with building the dock.
Oh right, yeah. No, that was the kind of lifeblood of that whole area.
Mm.
So it was a pretty. We passed on quite. Then we went to, if you remember, Leadenhall Market. Do you remember that? I'll get a quick picture up.
Yeah, get a picture up. Refresh my memory. So
you'll remember it when you see it.
What about?
That's not the picture. That's not the picture. That's it. Here it is.
Your drag
Remember that?
competition. I remember that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, that's
What about
that's when we saw that guy.
So, yeah. Any thoughts about that?
Well, you're
Oh,
the
the market.
Daniel first.
I said, you're a bit of a distraction because I quite fancy you like this in soft focus. You look a rent boy I used to know ages ago.
That will be cut from the.
So anyway, yeah, there didn't seem to be any actual shops there. There seemed to be lots of places that I wouldn't go to. So I'd be fascinated to know what it was like years ago. Even 20 years ago, I bet it was quite different.
Leadenhall Market was founded in 1445 as a market for wool, leather, meat and fish. The market's walls helped stop the spread of the Great Fire somehow, but it was later demolished by Victorians to make way for the current structure that was opened in 1881. It's worth taking time to explore the warren of little streets around the market. Well, we've got a warren of little streets later. Then he mentions some boring thing about Harry Potter. But what it was that it's all in this old style, but the shops are like, well, there was definitely a Pizza Hut. And they certainly, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I don't think they had Pizza Hut in 1881.
No, it was a coffee and cigar places, I seem to remember, in abundance.
And a Pizza Hut, there's definitely a Pizza Hut.
It's really beautiful. I mean, it is. I've never been there before. So, I mean, this last walk 2 weeks ago was probably the best one I've been on. Just because I went to so many places I had no idea even existed.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I agree. So then we exited there and we went to another church. It was St. Peter of Cornhill Church, and Simon and yourselves went inside it, if you remember. I haven't got another picture of it. Do you remember going inside it? And you got kicked out.
I asked us to leave, yes.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay.
Well, they were doing Rosemary's Baby stuff in there.
No, I can't. Oh no, yeah, there was children in there, and they didn't want us to be in there.
Witness what they were inflicting on the children.
Yeah, they were like making like sacrifice.
Very
mean,
polite about it.
Oh, they weren't polite. Well, at least they were polite. Was it a bloke or a woman that chucked you out?
This really weird guy. It was this really odd, like Christian bloke. It's very peculiar.
Very feet.
I wouldn't have thought, with the current reputation of the church, that they would allow a man to be alone with children like that these days.
Old habits are hard to break.
You what?
Old habits are hard to break.
They are. That's why you've got to bring some kind of a woman in there to sort of, bonk his dick down. You know what I mean?
I was so upset that even he's young enough to be my son. And
He was.
long gone are the days where I was considered a youth.
You never even got molested as a kid because you're too ugly, was it?
It's a really big hang up for me, Oh, there's a moth. Hang on a second. I need to kill it.
That's staying in. I think you can probably hear me, so I liked this place, actually, even though I didn't go in. I liked it because it said it was founded on the highest hill in the city back then.
Yeah.
And it was the site of the great Roman Basilica and Forum, which survived until the end of the 3rd century AD. So you really were standing in a very ancient place, I really liked that.
That's what I really like about visiting some of these places, like just standing next to something that you can kind of I know it sounds sort of corny, but feeling the history sort of thing.
Yeah, well, that's it, precisely what I got from this one. You could feel it on your skin.
There was another church. I had that feeling as well, and also it was very tucked away. You could have walked past it for years and not known it was there. And there was another church on the same walk that was similar.
There were a lot of churches. There were a lot of churches on this walk, actually.
But the one that was very tucked away and quite small and ancient.
Well, we might come to that. We may have done it already, or we may not have. There was one at the end. I don't want to do spoilers, but there was one right at the very end where they filmed some of the Village of the Damned, hadn't they?
That's right, yeah.
It says so. Anyway, I'll just continue reading. St. Peter's is traditionally believed to have been founded by King Lucius in 179 AD, although there is no evidence to support this. However, the fact that other churches in medieval London appear to have ranked St. Peter's first in terms of prestige and age suggests there is some substance to the claim of Roman origins. The current church was rebuilt by Wren after the Great Fire, and after a while, you realise this Wren guy keeps coming up a lot, you know. Then he goes on about this Dickens again, and I just don't want to talk about Charles Dickens particularly, because that doesn't really interest me. These constant harking backs to Dickens, you know. I'm not really interested in Dickens. Are you, Daniel, at all interested in Dickens?
Yeah, and actually, he was friends with my great or three great grandfathers.
Really?
So, yeah, we got some diaries where my I think it's three great grandfathers mentions, you know, going out for a walk and looking after Dickens' dog. So there's some
looking after Dickens' dog.
Yeah, taking his dog out for a walk.
What was his dog's name?
I can't remember. And the sad thing is, I think these diaries have vanished when my grandparents died and the house was cleared. So no one, I've mentioned these before. Diaries or letters, I can't remember which, either diaries or letters, and nobody can seem to find them. In fact, my mum doesn't even remember them, but I vividly remember my grandparents reading this extract to me and showing me the letter or diary. This is donkeys years ago.
Do you know the name of the? Do you know the name, Simon?
Donkeys years ago of Dickens' dogs.
Well, donkeys years ago of my many donkeys years ago of Dickens' dogs, and quite a few donkeys years ago when I remember being in my grandparents' house. I was probably in my teens.
I'm going to look it up right now. The name of Charles Dickens' dog. I've got Wikipedia here. I'm going to go Charles Dickens dog. The story of Charles Dickens' beloved flea-ridden dog. In the mid-19th century, Charles Dickens had a small, shaggy Havana spaniel named Timber Doodle.
Timber Doodle. Are you making this up?
No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Dickens had acquired Timber during a visit to America, and the little dog soon became his constant companion. Well, we've heard different, actually. Even accompanying him on his travels. It was during one of these foreign excursions that Timber suffered from a very severe infestation of fleas. The solution was extreme. Here we are. Sorry. I just had to. The solution was yes, accept cookies. The solution was extreme. As Dickens relates in an 1844 letter, Timber has had every hair upon his body cut off because of the fleas, and he looks like the ghost of a drowned dog come out of a pond after a week or so. It is very awful to see him slide into a room. He knows the change upon him and is always turning round and round to look for himself. I think he'll die of grief.
Oh dear.
Do you know the name of this ancestor of yours that did dog walking?
I think it was Thomas Henry Baker.
Can I look him up?
Yeah. He lived in Gouldhurst in Kent, and then came. This is also the same ancestor who came to Limehouse and Poplar to help build the was it the canals, the whatever it is.
Thomas Henry Baker, 1824 to 1904.
That could be him. Gouldhurst. He was an engineer, civil engineer.
I don't know what this website is that I've gone. It says artist or maker or something. This is not. It's not a very good website. I will definitely endeavour to find a picture of him though.
We've got some photos of him. He looks very severe.
Can you scan one and send it to me?
Yeah, I don't think I've got one. I'll have a look, but Mum's got the actual original picture in her house. So
has he got a big like Victorian moustache?
I don't think he has, but he's got quite long hair and kind of sort of frilly looking shirt. Very, very severe looking.
Right.
But he died quite early, and his wife had died. Then he married his servant, who we think was Jewish, and that's where my grandfather descends from. But then when they died very abruptly, then that part of the family, the children, were thrown into poverty, and that's why they never went back to the family house in Kent. That was quite a nice house. We found some photos of it. And that's how the East End connection of that family.
Can you see this? Can you see this screen I've just shared?
Oh, pinch out for bigger view.
Thomas Henry, T.H. Baker. I mean, they must be. Thomas Henry Baker is a pretty bog standard name, so there must be hundreds. But that day it sounds that's possible because my grandfather was born. This would be my grandfather's grandfather. And my grandfather was born in 1908. So for his grandfather to die in 1904, possible. But yeah, he was friends with, I don't know how close they were with Dickens.
Yeah. Well, he must have been fairly close to Walk the Dog.
Yeah, it was sort of casually mentioned, just sort of general, just sort of chats.
He might even be maybe he's became a character in one of the books.
God knows. I mean, we used to have Dickens read to us as children, so I'm quite fond of Dickens.
Really?
Yeah. And I certainly prefer Barry Humphries way more than Peter, what's his name? I even forget his name.
Cook.
Peter Cook, yes, I've only read.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, can you see me?
No. Do you want to be seen?
I don't mind.
Follow the path round to the exit to Cornwall. Should pass St Michael of Cornhill, a church with Saxon foundations. And notable for its Gothic tower that was built partly by Nicholas Hawksmoor between 1718 and 1722. The interior was reordered by Sir George Gilbert Scott in 1857. It is regarded as one of the most drastic Victorian attempts to impose their style on an existing city church. So I don't have a picture immediately available of the giant thing. I don't know if there's much for us to say, but this isn't the one that resonated with you, is it, Daniel?
I vaguely remember this, but also I'm seeing this is the one on the right-hand side.
Yes.
It looks like there's a sort of Victorian Gothic bit shoved on the front, but I can't see enough of the actual main structure.
Hawksmoor, wasn't he the Satanist guy that threw somebody off the top of one or something? Off of the church?
Don't remember that.
News to me.
Let me look that up very quickly. Hawksmoor devil worship. And if I does, known as the devil's architect, Hawksmoor was a mysterious Freemason who loved pagan symbols. Here we are. Look. Nicholas Hawksmoor, blah, 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 high reverence time, blah, blah, churches. However, his work takes on a new, more sinister meaning when viewed within the context of Satanism and demon worship. Well, okay, it's all a bit psychogeography and you can't really trust that stuff. So if there's anything more interesting about that, I will bung it up in post. Okay. So, but we can accept that he had certainly had an interest in the pagan. Continue down Cornhill as far as number 38 on the left-hand side. This used to be the office of publishers Smith, Elder and Son. And can anybody guess what this was about? Anybody remember? There it is.
Hang on, wait. I can't actually see.
Give us a clue.
Writing.
Oh, Jane Eyre.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. The publishers Smith, Elder and Son, who in 1848 were paid a surprise visit by their clients Anne, Emily, and Charlotte Bronte.
Bronte.
Pardon me? Yeah, the Brontes.
The Bronte.
Until this visit, the publishers have been corresponding with the sisters under the pseudonyms of so-and-so, and unsurprisingly thought they were dealing with male writers. The sisters were taken aback, taking this approach as they thought it would help them be taken more seriously. But as a result, they had to show copies of their correspondence with their publishers. And anyway, so there was a nice little, the door was all nice carvings, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah.
The Brontes met Thackeray there. Yes, and he said, look out for the old water pump on the other side of the road.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that as well. Then, dun, 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 dun. Then he goes, walk up the tiny Ball Court. Do you remember walking up Ball Court?
Did it take us to the restaurant that only served meat that Simon ate at?
Yes, it did. It took us to the wonderful world of tiny alleys.
Really tiny.
Yeah.
Yes, Simpsons.
That's it. Is that the same as Simpsons in the Strand?
I think it might be, but that one that we went past, I've been in there and I've had their stewed. It's like their signature dish, stewed cheese.
Mm.
Stewed cheese.
Yeah, it's really nice actually.
Is that like a fondue?
Yeah, it's kind of a bit like that. Yeah.
And you dip bread in it, or do you dip meat in it?
No, you just sort of eat it with a spoon. It's peculiar. It's nice though. It's really nice.
This takes you to Simpson's Tavern, founded in 1757 and one of the most atmospheric and old-fashioned restaurants in London. It is closed at the weekends, but if you are visiting during the week, it is a great place for lunch, particularly if you like large portions of meat, Daniel, as
Yeah.
as the menu is very much in the style of a traditional old chop house. Expect to share a bench with city workers, and it'll be served by the rather eccentric staff. Simon, can you comment?
I just remember when I went in there, the guy next to me, he ordered this blue cheese, like Stilton's cheese, but they bring out the whole cheese, and like you dig your spoon into the top of the entire cheese. It's like a massive, this huge lump of cheese, like a whole cheese they put on your table, and then you kind of just scoop the inside. But it was full of city boys who are like all really pissed.
Wasn't recording. Bollocks. Don't worry, guys. I will just fill in all of that. Nothing of great import was said, was it?
You've
Apart
done
from
this.
what I just read from the book, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just do that. Fuck's sake.
Coffee was associated with clever thought. That was
Yeah.
good.
Thinkers and
And was he the
spaceship.
most grouchy barrister in the world? Because he was, because he's the only one.
No, because it says coffee became so popular that by 1739 there were over 550 coffee houses in London. I wonder how many there are now.
There's
Even more.
loads, but I don't think they're frequented by kind of philosophers and playwrights and stuff like that.
Costa coffee.
Well, Richard Torrey himself doesn't go to those ones. He goes to sort of arty little ones in Soho, Don't you, Richie?
I don't go to the philosophers' cafes.
No, you don't go to the big brands like Costa or Starbucks.
No.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad I remembered to put that recording on. Otherwise, it would have just fucking, Ugh. So, share screen again. The Georgian Vulture, just beside walk away from Cornhill, passing the Georgian Vulture Chop House on the right. This is another traditional city eatery founded in the 17th century and rebuilt after a fire, not the Great Fire, in 1748. It is referred to by Dickens in the Pickwick Papers. Mr. Pickwick stays there during the trial of somebody or other. Dickens once hosted a dinner here in 1834 for 34 of his friends, and the restaurant still has the original bill. Maybe your ancestor was there, Daniel, Mr. F.
Possibly. I really don't know.
During the 18th century, Georgian Vulture became known as one of the haunts of the Hellfire Club, a notorious group of aristocrats rumored to indulge in Satanism and other immoral practices.
Yeah, wasn't Alistair Crowley like joined the Hellfire Club and kind of like pissed them all off or something, and then he went off to do his own thing?
I don't know about the Hellfire Club. It does seem about I'm not sure what his dates are, but he joined a mystical order, the Temple of the Order of the Golden Dawn.
That's right. Yeah. No, but I think there was some connection with the Hellfire Club.
Well, because they're all sex mad.
Yeah.
Well, Crowley certainly was. I don't know that the Temple of the Golden Dawn were. I think they were kind of quite. Well, who knows? It's the kind of thing that homosexuals and ascedes are attracted to, isn't it? The mystical. No, sometimes.
Yeah, no, I thought that Crowley had like I don't know. He tried to kind of rise above the ranks of. I can't. Yeah, I'm not. It's a bit hazy. I don't want to say anything that's not true.
No, well, what you're talking about is the Golden Dawn. As the Hellfire Club is a different thing.
Wasn't the Hellfire Club something to do with Chislehurst Caves as well?
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Some place I'd love to go to. I've never been there.
It's one of millions upon millions of places that I've never been to. I'd put it on my list, but not before Orford. But that's another story.
So good about the Chislehurst Caves?
Sorry, Richard.
What's the Chislehurst case like? What?
I've
Is it
never
a
been
pig or something.
Miles.
The Hellfire Club used to hold massive black magic orgies down there.
Oh.
Richard.
Yeah. So I'm certain that Crowley would have been interested in that.
Yeah, I don't know if his dates completely line up. His dates of birth, etc., completely line up with them, but he certainly would have been interested. Continue ahead until you reach George. I mean, it was the, but that's like somebody in 100 years going, I really want to go to Epstein Island. Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. Who knows? Anyway, so continue ahead until you reach George Yard and then enter Lombard Street and bear right. This was the original banking centre in London and where Barclays and Lloyds banks used to have their head offices. It's named after Lombard merchants from Italy who first came in the 12th century and who filled a gap left by the Jewish moneylenders who had been expelled from the city. The Lombardians used to work on benches, or banco in Italian, giving rise to the word bank.
That's right. Yeah.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
That bit. The bank comes from benches.
Yeah, that was an interesting little bit of trivia. The trade signs that can be seen hanging from buildings on the street are a medieval tradition that now survives in this part of the city. Yeah, they were all quite nice. I've got a few pictures of those. Do I? Well, that's the street.
There was a cat playing a cello. Remember that?
And there's a cricket or a locust or something, a grasshopper. Remember that?
Yeah.
There's some pictures of it.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And Charles Dickens' first great love, Maria Beadnell, used to live at number 2, whilst her father managed the bank next door. 18-year-old Dickens met Maria in 1830 and pursued her for 4 years. However, he was then still a poor young reporter with few prospects. This is good for the men's rights activists. Pursued her for 4 years. However, he was then still a poor young reporter with seemingly few prospects, and it seems socially superior Maria led him on somewhat before ending the relationship. Distraught Dickens would come to Lombard Street during the night and stand outside staring at her window. You get arrested for that these days.
Great.
Years later, Maria contacted Dickens, by now a world-famous and married author, and he agreed to meet her. Perhaps both were hoping to rekindle the flames of their romance, but Dickens was saddened to find Maria was now, in his eyes, a silly middle-aged frump.
It happens to them all.
Yeah. It won't happen to me. I will never be a silly middle-aged frump. I'll be silly and middle-aged, but I won't be a frump.
Have you got plans for your 50th?
My what? 50th?
Have you got plans for your 50th?
No. I mean, usually I go down to my parents for my birthday, but I might not be invited this time, seeing as I came out as unjabbed. So it might be my second excommunication from the family or something. I don't know. At the end of Lombard Street, you'd pass by Nicholas Hawksmoor's elegant St. Mary of Woolnoth, his only city church. Regarded as Wren's most talented pupil, he built the church between 1716 and 1727. It's the only city church with an underground station occupying its crypt. That's at Bank. And I think that's interesting. How does that work? That might be worth another visit. John Newton, a former slave ship captain, was rector here and is best known for co-writing the hymn Amazing Grace. Well, he wrote that because he wanted to free the slaves, isn't it? That's a song about freeing the slaves, because he repented against being he doesn't mention that. He just says, oh, he was a slave ship, captain. The poet T.S. Eliot used to work for Lloyd's Bank in Lombard Street and immortalized the church in his poem The Wasteland, 1922, describing how the morning commuters walked over London Bridge, and he quotes, "And each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill and down King William Street, to where St. Mary Woolnoth kept the hours, with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. That doesn't even rhyme.
No.
Oh, that's not up there with Stormzy, is it?
So which is the church with the underground in its crypt? Which
St. Mary's of Woolnoth. St. Mary Woolnoth. Bank.
I don't remember that at all. I don't remember going to that at all.
I don't.
I think we were quite confused. We were quite, because it is a lot of twisty-turny streets in this map, that we did get somewhat discombobulated, disorientated at times, and were sometimes more focusing on where we were supposed to go next than what we were supposed to be looking at,
Because I thought this walk started at the the naval place.
Yeah, the memorial, and then the Jack Ketch.
Yeah, but so have you done that already, or what?
Yeah, we did that was part 1, Simon. We did it on Richard Torrey's roof. You were there.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, all right, sorry. Yeah.
So we only have 10 more stops to go. So, stay strong, brothers.
So sorry, just one last question. What is the tube station that's in the crypt of the church, or is this
Bank? Bank
Tube. So part of Bank Tube is in the crypt of the church. Okay.
Yeah, so that's something that's worth investigating on its own account.
But Bank Tube is notorious. What was that?
It wasn't me. I think it was Richard Torrey.
All right. Bank Tube is like notorious for being difficult to, like, if you want to change lines, like you have to go through all this whole rigmarole. Like there's it's like a labyrinth. If you want
Northern
to,
line to Central line is a bugger.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. It's awful.
You walk to really Monument Station, don't you?
I know, it's a nightmare. If you have to change it bank, it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid it.
Edward Lloyd, founder of Lloyd's Coffee House, was buried in the church. His coffee house was based in Lombard Street, and from it developed the Lloyd's of London insurance market. From the church, cross over King William Street with the Bank of England to your right. Head left down Mansion House Place. It was getting very dark. It was beginning to get very dark at this point, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. You went past that. There was like a church, and there was like something going on inside.
Well, it's called Mansion House. Well, first there was Mansion House, which I'll get that picture up. Oh, no, that's an old picture. I think that's from the 70s. That picture. Anything interesting there? Lord Chief Mansion House. This inferior law court contains 11 cells, one of which briefly held suffragette campaigner Emmeline Pankhurst in the early 20th century. That's a woman who should have been under Jack Ketch's axe, don't you think? Pankhurst, suffragettes.
Pankhurst.
Yeah.
Is she the one that what did she throw herself underneath a horse or something?
Yeah, the King's Horse.
Yeah.
They were doing bombs and
Derby.
everything. They were terrorists. And they're still terrorizing us to this very day. It's all good jokes, all good fun. Bear right around the narrow St. Stephen's Row onto Walbrook, named after the now hidden river. Onto Walbrook, named after the now hidden river that once bisected the city, which is thought to have its source near Holywell Lane, not far to the north of here, around Shoreditch High Street. The river was largely covered over during the late medieval period, and today, now rather more prosaically known as London Bridge Sewer, empties into the Thames from an outflow about 100 feet to the west of Cannon Street Station. London Bridge Sewer, Simon, isn't that way that video you sent me of those guys were running down it or something?
What?
You sent me a video of those guys that do, the weird.
Oh yeah. No, that's definitely worth it. You should do that. You should do that as a tour. That'd be brilliant.
But was that London Bridge Sewer that they were walking down?
I'm not sure what it was, but it was a big tunnel that goes underneath the Thames.
Did it have lots of cables in it as well? Got lots of power.
Yeah. No, that guy. I think that guy is called Beno, Beno, and he does they call it urbex, urban exploring, and he's like I've been trying to get in touch with him. I tried to contact him, but he's kind of under the radar. He doesn't reply.
They kind of break into places that are unused and explore them.
Yeah, but they go to some really interesting places.
They broke into Simon's Gallery once.
Yeah, he did a review of the elevator gallery.
By breaking in?
No, because anyone could use that elevator, but he's like one of these. I think he's slightly autistic. Like he's got this fascination of lifts, and he just likes to go into lots of different lifts. And he found by chance he went into the elevator at Elevator Gallery, and he did a video about it. And through that, I tried to contact him, but he didn't. They like to surf on. Have you heard of lift surfing, where you get on top of the lift, you go up and down? Yeah, they do that, and it looks really fun. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to do it with him, but he didn't reply. Yeah.
My idea of a nightmare. I've seen this video. You must have sent a link, Simon, a few months ago, because I watched several videos of this guy.
Yeah, I know. He's nuts. He's just crazy. He's got this really peculiar voice. It's very. Yeah, it's very odd. But I'd like to meet him.
How does he speak?
He sort of speaks like this, and he's going, and we're going in the elevator, and it's going up, and it's going down, and let's ride it, let's do it.
He's a bit like a children's TV presenter.
It's very weird. It's very odd, but he sounds like a really nice person.
So anyway, then we came to Wren's Church. Can you see the picture?
Yeah.
Wren's Church, St. Stephen, Walbrook, lies immediately, often described as his finest London parish church. I don't know if I like it.
Was that the really dome?
Yes, yeah, with the green dome. Yes, that's right.
It's a bit obscure.
The original church was founded in Saxon times, and the 15th century. Saxon times wasn't 15th century. This guy can't write sometimes. Saying in the 15th century building. So it was founded in Saxon times, then something else was built on it, and then in the 15th century, and that was destroyed by the Great Fire of London. Wren rebuilt the church in the 1670s with a beautiful dome, then very innovative in English church construction, and is seen as a trial run for St. Paul's. At the heart of the church is Henry Moore's marble altar installed in 1987. This Wren character, he got a lot of work, it seems, after the Great Fire of London.
Yeah.
Makes me
You feel
think he might have started it.
Yeah, could be.
If you go into the church, behind the altar, look out for a telephone kept inside a case. This was the original telephone used in 1953 by the rector, Dr. Chad Vara, to provide a crisis hotline for the suicidal. This gave rise to the Samaritans organization, which now has branches worldwide. Well, there you go. Blimey.
Where was that? I don't remember
In that
Where
church.
was that?
In
I
this,
remember
Oh, what?
that.
The really filthy church.
no, the one with the green dome.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember that. Okay.
In-
Oh, yeah.
You tried to go in and there was a meeting of youth meeting or something.
No, that was different. That was the one before.
Yeah, that was one before.
No, it was the one where you tried to get me a scooter, Richard.
Oh yeah.
That didn't work, did it?
Actually, driving license for those scooters.
You needed a driving license.
Yeah.
But when I went with my Lime, because I got them in Paris, and this time I went with my Lime app, and it said you need to register with a driving license.
That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, from that church, the Samaritans has been founded. A useful organization, I suppose. Anybody here ever called the Samaritans?
I have.
No.
Crap. It's absolutely awful. Don't never phone them. They're crap.
Really bad.
They're rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Why? Explain yourself. You don't have to.
I've phoned them before, and they just go, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about that," and then they don't say anything else. "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about that."
Fucking hell.
They don't give you any
That's
numbers.
That's all they
drugs.
say. That's all they say.
They don't give you any free drugs or anything.
They do nothing. It's the shittiest service, I think.
Well, they've so many charities have gone down that avenue, yet they've expanded office space, staff, salaries. So it's professional charity fund grabbers again. Their service is minimal. It's useless.
I know. It's rubbish, crap.
So
It's
then
happening.
follow the map to this is one of my favorite bits. Follow the map to Cannon Street and head again. It's saying the meeting will end in 10 minutes. It's saying this again. So just letting you know. Okay. Follow the map to Cannon Street and head eastwards. Shortly on the left, opposite Cannon Street Station, look out for a small cage. Again, this proves that this guy's not up to date with the book. Small cage at ground level, behind which is, can anybody remember?
The central stone of London.
The stone.
The stone of Excalibur.
Yeah. I remember now.
The London Stone. The stone's origins are obscure. However, it's commonly suggested it was used by the Romans as a central measuring point for all official distances in the province of Britannia. Others believe it may have been the stone that held King Arthur's sword Excalibur. It could have been both, don't you think? In any event, it later became seen as the symbolic heart of the city, where official proclamations were made and oaths sworn. It is referred to in the works of William Blake, Charles Dickens, and Shakespeare.
So why did they put it in a toilet?
Yeah, well, they've taken the cage away and made it look like a toilet now. Yes.
Does look like a potty.
Yeah, it's probably designed by some feminist that's got a problem with like such a masculine object, In Henry V, Jack Cade, leader of a popular rebellion observed the tradition of striking his sword against the stone as a symbol of his sovereignty. The stone used to be set into the wall of St. Swithin's Church that once stood here, but was destroyed in the Blitz and not rebuilt. Carry on along Cannon Street, St. Mary Abnert, another church. There are lots of churches here on this tour. It's a better picture.
Bit too many churches for my liking.
Again, this was designed by Wren after the original was destroyed in the Great Fire. It contains a fine dome.
Where?
Well, in the bog, probably on top.
Yeah, the steeple.
It also features a reredos carved by Grinling Gibbons. What is a reredos?
No idea.
No clue.
Who's Grinling Gibbons?
God knows.
I thought one of
He
you
was an
knew.
artist.
Daniel?
I think he was an artist or an architect, one or the other. I think,
Okay.
yeah. I think he was an architect. And I think to do with churches, because I of all places, his name cropped up in Joyce Grenfell's autobiography because her father was an architect.
Okay. Then it says, follow the map along Cannon Street. And this was something that we didn't see, a blue plaque for King William Street Tube Station. It was the first deep tunnel underground station in London when it opened in 1890. Richard, I did find the...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll
How they powered the tubes in that.
yeah, they were steam. They were steam. The first tubes were steam.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, did you find out about that?
I did. Yes.
And what was the story?
They were steam.
So that must have been awful.
Yeah, people were always passing out and being ill, but at the same time, other people were saying it was a cure for anorexia. It was, yeah, it's quite odd. Anyway, King William Street Tube Station. It was the first deep tunnel underground station in London when it opened in deep tunnel when it opened in 1890, and was the northern terminus of the City and South London Railway. It was never successful economically and soon closed. It remains shut. Despite plans in 1910 to use its tunnels for growing mushrooms. Until World War II, it used as an air raid shelter. Sorry, Daniel?
We went to that was the pub, wasn't it? It's now a pub. We drank there.
No.
That's another tube.
Yeah, that's further on. 4 minutes on the countdown. Then, dun, 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 we went to the monument, which I have never ever been to before
I find
in my life.
I find this very weird that you didn't even know about it and you have never been there.
Monument to me has just been one of those tube stations that you just pass through on the tube and never think about, like, oh, monument. Who gives a fuck about monument? You know?
Because it's the monument.
Well, go on then. Tell us all about it, Simon.
Well, I know. I mean, the Great Fire of London has become like the kind of focal point of this kind of talk, really, and it's one of the defining moments in the history of the city in which we live. I think, I just find it odd that you would have not even known that it was there.
If the station was called the Monument to the Great Fire of London,
Right.
then I would probably think, oh, okay, I'll jump off at this station. But when it's just called Monument, it just sounds like nothing, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, Karen.
No, you speak.
Oh no, I was just no. The thing that interests me about it is the the thing on top, which is like a flaming. It's called a flaming orb, which is like this kind of ball of fire, which I guess is pertinent. But what is wasn't it like if you measure the height of it and where it falls, that's where the fire started. Is that correct?
Something like that. If you look on the screen, I've got that because you've been up it, haven't you?
Yeah, you can go up it and you can go underneath it as well.
And look at these. Can you see that, Richard and Daniel? The picture.
Yeah.
It's very big.
But like you, little Richard, I exactly the same. It didn't mean anything to me. Monument, a monument of anything.
What about you, Richard? Sorry, you've lived here longer than any of us.
Yeah, I knew about it. And Pudding Lane. I don't know why. I just did.
But you've never been up it like Simon has.
No.
He's been up it. Is it a lift? Do you go up in a lift, Simon, or do you have to walk up?
Walk steps. It's like it's very kind of narrow steps. It's like if you've ever been in an old church, when you have to go up those really twisty spiral staircase. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
Wow, you must be knackered when you get to the top.
Yeah, it's quite hard. It's like when you go on those tube stations, which have got a massive when you have to walk down the steps.
Yeah,
it's like that.
So it's not for the disabled then.
Yeah, I could probably do it now, but it's definitely worth going. When you get the chance, do it. Do it. I want to go underneath it because apparently you can go underneath it as well.
It stands 61 meters high. It was designed by Christopher Wren again and somebody called Robert Hooke. It commemorates the Great Fire of London that started 61 meters away in Thomas Farriner's baker shop in Pudding Lane.
And much of a view when you go up to the top.
Well, there probably was in the past, but because there's so many in the city, they built all these massive tower blocks. Not so much.
That's what it looked like in the old days, that area. If you see this picture I've just put up.
Wow.
Quite different to what it looks like now.
Will that be in living memory as well?
What does that mean?
Oh, less than a minute to go.
Oh dear. Okay. Right. Well, then after this, we've only got 5 more things. There you go.
Yeah, I wish they'd made Nelson's column so you could go up it. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, but they haven't. While we're waiting for Simon, I'll just read about the monument. I read that Pudding Lane is where the fire started in September 1666. 666.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next 3 days, the fire destroyed over 13,200 houses and 87 out of 109 city churches, leaving over 70,000 people homeless. 436 acres were razed to the ground. About 4/5 of the city. I've got a picture of this actually, of the Great Fire. Let me just do that share screen. Here we are. Share. I've got a couple. There's one. It's very small. Can I make it big? Can you see that, or can you see it big?
Yeah.
You can.
I'm using my phone. Oh, hang on, I can actually zoom in.
H.P. Lovecraft monster.
Yeah, with a touch of Van Gogh. Only 51 churches and 9,000 houses were rebuilt, and perhaps the only good statistic to come out of the fire is that only around 10 people are thought to have died in it.
It's amazing, really.
Yeah. Farriner, the baker, was questioned as part of the official investigation into the fire, but not charged, and returned to work as a baker. The anger of Londoners was instead directed at a Catholic Frenchman named Robert Hubert, who confessed to starting the fire, even though the authorities found out he was not even in London at the time it broke out. Nevertheless, he became a scapegoat and was executed in Tyburn. What? But he wasn't even there.
Should have kept his big mouth shut.
People do that though. Sometimes they, some people have habitually confessed to crimes that they didn't commit. The original inscription on the base of the monument included the anti-Catholic statement, "But Popish frenzy which wrought such horrors is not yet quenched." The offensive phrase was not removed until 1831. 11 years later, the cages around the top of the monument were added to end an unenviable reputation as a popular jumping spot for suicides. Robert Watt, yeah, they used to jump off it to kill themselves. Robert Hooke, who helped design it, had intended the monument to be used for scientific experiments, in particular to act as a zenith telescope. From a cellar laboratory located below the monument, he intended to make measurements of a selected fixed star and discover evidence of the Earth's annual motion about the sun by looking through the hollow column at the night sky. The top of the column had a hinged trapdoor which could be opened at night. However, it proved useless as the building turned out to be too unstable for Hooke to take accurate readings. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. From the monument, walk down the hill past Pudding Lane. I have a picture of Pudding Lane.
That's when it got quite dark, wasn't it?
Oh, it was getting dark. Yeah, it was getting very dark. It was getting right dark. It was getting right dark, it were. Where's my picture of Pudding Lane? Oh, I don't suppose it mattered. Sorry, guys. Pudding Lane on your left to reach Lower Thames Street. On the right-hand side is Custom House. I have good. Now, we were on the land side of it, but it goes right onto the river. Can you see? Can I make that big?
I can
Can you
zoom
see
in.
that?
Yeah.
That's the other side of it.
Wow.
Custom House, largely built in the 19th century. The site has been used for the collection of customs duties since 1257, which doesn't sound that exciting, but the pictures are nice. Here's another one. Can you see that? I think that's an old photo. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I think it's I'm not sure.
It looks vaguely like Buckingham Palace from here.
That's a nice one.
Wow. That's good.
There's a little schooner come up there. So that's where they had their wares checked and they had to pay customs for them, I suppose. Besides it is old Billingsgate Market. And here you go. There you go. There's old Billingsgate Market. Can you see that, everybody?
Mm-hmm. Your fish market.
Ah, yes. The main fish market in London for over 900 years until the market relocated to the Isle of Dogs in 1982. The infamous Cray twins used to work at the market in their early years, as did the writer George Orwell. Do not cross Lower Thames Street, but instead head left up the steep and narrow Lovett Lane. Do you remember this bit? Lovett Lane, I do.
Yeah.
See that? Lovett Lane, until you reach Wren's Church of St. Mary at the Hill. This might have been the one you were talking about. St. Mary at the Hill. I haven't got a great picture of it. Do you remember, Daniel?
Really
People were coming out of it. They were an old couple coming out of it.
Yeah,
That's
there was
the
some
backside.
a concert. There was a concert going on.
That's right. First mentioned in 1177, it was rebuilt by Wren after the Great Fire. Its charming interior has recently been refurbished after having been gutted by a fire in 1988. Beside the church is, we got slightly lost here, didn't we? Probably maybe because his book might be out of date or something. Besides the church is a narrow alleyway that leads to St Mary at the Hill Street. And here you'll see the other side of the church, which is what I'm presenting here. And I think this may have had a skull as well.
Yeah. There was a skull and crossbones.
Yeah, another skull and crossbones, but I don't. I'll try and find that in the picture, but I don't have it here. And then then we cross over again down St Dunstan's Lane to visit the remains of St Dunstan's in the East. Our final stop, it was. Originally founded in Saxon times, the later medieval church largely survived the Great Fire and needed only partial rebuilding in a Gothic design by Christopher Wren again. However, Wren's elegant church was bombed during the Blitz, and a pleasant garden was later built. Now, we were there too late to properly investigate, weren't we? So
Yeah,
that might have been nice.
it'd be lovely to go in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There was that other place as well with the, the church where Pepys was watching the Great Fire.
So that was right at the very beginning. We've already covered that in part one.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's another place that I'd like to go back to.
Yes, of course, yes. And a pleasant garden was like, but the makers of the 1963 horror film Children of the Damned set some scenes here. And that was the end of the tour, yeah, so, well, I thought it was one of the best tour thus far.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if you, I think if only, if you could only take one thing away from it, if you haven't seen, the monument, I think that would be like, that's a great thing for anyone to find out about.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll try to definitely do that. Although I imagine there were loads of tourists. Well, there were lots of tourists sort of mulling around, even in the dark when we were there, weren't there?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think this is the thing. Imagine if you're a tourist, you're going to some city and like you've read your guidebook, and you find out about these little things. But I think it's a highlight, definitely.
Yeah. Let me just show you another couple of pictures, Rich, while we're all here, that you didn't. This is Jack Ketch, the infamous.
Six strokes.
The old Six Strokes, yeah. That's what you look like.
Yuck.
I don't know. It's all right.
Imagine, I'd love him. I'd love him to cut my head off.
And there's a picture of. This is a different picture of him here. That's a different one. Wood cutting. This is the. It won't make this one large for some reason. Damn, and that's the best picture. Come on. Oh, it just won't do it. So it must be the wrong type of file. Is it not? This is all the crowd at one of Jack Ketch's. You see the Tower of London in the background there?
Yeah.
Can you see it, Richie?
Yeah. It's very small, but I can just about see it. Yeah.
I've made it large though.
That's what I was talking about. How the people turned up to watch such a gruesome act. It was like the best thing. It was the highlight of your, can you imagine if that was happening? Everyone turning up.
Yes, but they didn't have Britain's Got Talent back then, Now
I know. Well, they were so lucky. They were so lucky. They did.
The Kardashians.
Yeah.
crap.
before all that, you got to watch people actually being beheaded. It must have been fucking great.
Simon, you sick bastard.
No,
This is
but
the Duke of Monmouth. This is the I've got the infamous painting where they put his head back on. Duke of Monmouth there. I'm not so sure why you're not seeing it go big, Richie. Maybe that's
In the corner of the picture, there's two arrows pointing to each other. Does that make it go big or something?
You
What's
just
that?
pinch it. Just pinch it and make it grow.
We can't. We're not on touch screens. We're on laptops.
Oh, sorry.
I am making it grow, but it must not be sharing that. Let me. Oh, there we are. How's that?
Same, small. Oh, now it's big, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Oh, he looks quite young and handsome.
Well, his head's just sitting there. They've just plopped it back on the severed neck and painted this picture of him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love this tour. I mean, I think it was. I don't know that we've done it justice in the talk.
Well, yeah, I think maybe there should be some kind of like commentary whilst we're on the tour. I think that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, we should definitely go for that next time.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, this I did notice, Daniel, you were, well, all three of you were. There was this halfway point where everybody really dipped from like having too much of everything, too much walking and too much mental stimulus, and everybody was kind of exhausted at one point, weren't they?
Drop out a few of the bit too many churches. New church, another church by Wren, another church by Wren.
I think that is true, actually. Plus, I also had remnants of quite a bad cold as well. But I remember feeling quite tired at one point. Strangely,
Well,
my legs weren't aching at all.
I think it's inevitable that it's going to get a little bit taxing after a while. But yeah, I mean, I think you kind of pick it up. It picks up after you've kind of you have a lull, and then it kind of picks up again.
But now we do know that it's getting dark earlier, and so if we should really probably start earlier, unless.
Yeah, but I quite like it when it's dark. It makes it more kind of spooky and more oldie London.
There is that, which just means that I need to be more prepped and have my little torch, loaded with a battery.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I take Richard's point about too many churches, maybe, but on the other hand, it was in itself a great walk.
Yeah,
it was a great walk.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it was one of my favourites, actually.
It puts me to shame that I don't know my own city that well.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Finding out about all this stuff.
Yeah, I'll give it I'm gonna be conservative and give it 8 out of 10. Yeah. So that's pretty good. Okay, well, should I stop screen sharing?
Is that the end?
Yeah, I guess so. Does anybody want to see the film The Green Knight?
What's it about?
It's based on an Arthurian tale. I can't really say. Gawain and the Green Knight.
Oh, right.
New release.
Yeah, but it's not.
You just read that book, you said.
I did, yes, and it's out now, but it's not on at the Odeon, or at least they. I said to the Odeon, "Oh, are you going to be on their Twitter thing? Will you be showing the Green Knight?" And he goes, and the guy responded, goes like, "Check this out." The guy's response was, "Well, Best keep looking at the website. Smiley face. No, what the fuck? What the
Wanker.
fuck? What wanker? What are you doing? What are you doing all day? You can't get on the phone and phone somebody up above you to find out, because this means that I have to pay to see it at a cinema in town now tomorrow.
That's customer service in 2021.
Fucking
Look
appalling.
at the website.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, what the fuck are you doing then? What's your job then? Fuck's sakes. Anyway, so I might be in town tomorrow to go and see that, Richie.
Okay.
Not sure yet. All right, guys. Well, okay. Well, do we call it quits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Let me switch off the recording.